This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
On the Breakfast Grill today, KM Lee, Managing Director of Top Glove Corporation Berhad, the world's largest glove maker, commanding a quarter of global market share and producing 45 billion pieces of glove. Listed on main board of Bursa Malaysia, its share price almost tripled in 2015, which marked the year that investors loved non-ringgit earnings. Now, KM, your stock price almost mirrors the US dollar ringgit movement. When the US dollar is strong against the ringgit, Top Glove's price moves up and vice versa. Now that the ringgit has rebounded, I mean, it's one of the strongest emerging market currencies this quarter. How do you think Top Glove's stock price would perform this year?
Yes, the strength in the US dollar has helped our performance. But only to a certain extent, because at least about 50% of it also comes from our improvement in cost efficiency and better productivity. Well, we always say that the ringgit's weakness and the lower raw material prices are temporal factors. We must always try our best to control factors that are within our control. For instance, our production, our wastages, and etc.
Okay, we want to definitely talk a lot more about that later. But is it fair to say then that Top Glove has become a US dollar proxy?
Well, in a way, looking at all export-oriented industries, it has helped to a certain extent, and nevertheless, in a very competitive industry like the glove business, customers always keep track of factors like raw material prices, strength of the US dollar vis-a-vis the Malaysian ringgit. So they will also come back for discounts. Yep. So it's a very dynamic industry whereby you can't keep all the savings that you have. And for long-term business, you always have to share with the customers.
And I know that you're not a currency trader, but what's your forecast of US dollar to ringgit this year?
A lot depends on how we perceive what is going to unfold in the world economy. A lot of geopolitical factors all over the world. Prices of oil, for instance, will come into play, and that will determine where the direction of the US dollar will be.
Do you have a number? I mean, some people are saying 450, 470, some are saying 5. It's anywhere, right?
These are the numbers that have been branded about. But again, if there's a sudden jolt in the world economy, whether external factors, political factors, there is a possibility that it could go to 4.5. But right now, I think it's a good break whereby it falls back to lower levels. It has regained its strength. I think on the bigger picture, it's good for the overall economy, the overall country.
I'm speaking to KM Lee, Managing Director of Top Glove Corporation. If you have any questions, you can text us at 016-201-9000 or tweet us at BFM Radio. KM, I'd like to talk about your first quarter. Net profit was up 164%. I guess a lot of currency effects there. Also, you're targeting a 10 to 15% volume growth for FY16. Are you on target here?
Yes, I think if you look at what we have achieved the last one quarter, a lot of it comes from improvements that we have made at least about 1.5 years ago. For instance, efforts in embarking a lot of automation, efforts in reducing wastages, tightening up our operations, and a host of other initiatives that help us to push forward to gain in many areas. So looking forward, I think demand will still be good. As you know, glove business is recession-proof, highly resilient to changes in economy, essential items that all health industry and other businesses use every day.
Now, this is a very high growth, or 10 to 15% volume growth. But I just want to focus on the price side a little bit. What are your customers saying about pricing? How much can you squeeze out of your customers in terms of price increase?
It's always the duty of the customers to strike a good bargain. And naturally, we also take into considerations of increase in costs in quite a few areas, like for instance, minimum wage coming into effect July this year, as well as the recently announced levy charges.
That's right.
So all this basically will cause glove manufacturers to tweak their costing and to price accordingly, meaning that when these cost increases come in, they'll probably give less discounts and will adjust accordingly.
Talking about pricing power, your competitors would feature as well, right? You can't really move much if your competitors, who are also producing gloves to the extent of billions and billions of pieces, is there very strong competitive factors?
Yes, like every industry and like every business in the market, every year is going to get tougher and tougher. And so for 2016, there's no exception as well. We anticipate that it will be a tough year ahead. Plenty of challenges abound, so we are all prepared for it.
So what kind of price rises are you talking about here in percentage terms?
Well, I believe that at the moment with low raw material prices and oil prices are still low, fairly low if you compare to the average of last year, I should say that prices should remain at about this level unless the other factors will come in, whereby, example, if there's a sudden explosion of increasing capacities by the various players, then there will be a different picture.
Do you expect that? Is it some kind of an arms race that's going on as far as capacity building is concerned?
A lot has been said last year about every glove manufacturer's increasing capacity, but I believe that everyone will probably look at the market as well. For example, if the capacity is more than the supply, the supply is more than the demand, players would also probably be a bit cautious, not to expand too much and too fast for this particular year. So that itself, it will balance the capacity factor. And long run, I believe that it will work out by itself. And like every other business, when there's a situation of more supply than demand, there will be a process of maybe some consolidation. And basically, what comes in most importantly would be how cost effective you are and how good you are in managing costs and in ensuring that you price your product competitively in the market.
I'm speaking to KM Lim, MD of Top Glove Corporation, this morning on the Breakfast Grill, and talking about levies on foreign workers. Out of your staff size of about 10,000, I believe, how many are foreign workers? And will you be bearing any of this levy increase that the government has imposed, doubled from 1,250 ringgit to 2,500 ringgit?
Yes, this is something on everybody's mind right now. As a manufacturer, we felt that it's coming too fast and too soon. And we wish that more consultation has taken place.
So how many foreign workers do you have?
We have 7,000.
So 70% of your workforce are foreign workers?
Yes.
And as I understand it, the industry usually bears the levy, and this is going to prove to be a very costly exercise for you.
Yes, I think we have made our comments, and we have worked closely with the various associations, and this will be an impact that has to be taken by the industry, and for it to be double up, in such a short period, may not be a wise move because it will render the industry less competitive vis-a-vis the neighboring countries.
From a policy viewpoint, how do you think the government should wean off local producers from foreign workers' dependence?
More incentives in automation, for example, and helping them in various other ways, like example, capital allowance, for new investments, and incentives for R&D, automation, etc. And that would help. And also, basically making the process of engaging foreign workers to be much more transparent and much more easier as compared to presently, it's difficult to get. And I believe that every employer probably do not like to hire foreign workers, as many as they would like, because it's costly nowadays compared to 3 years ago, 5 years ago. The cost has gone up a lot. And basically, I believe most Malaysian employers are responsible parties that are very careful with what they do when it comes to employing foreign workers.
Would it help if you shifted some of the cost of this levy to hiring locals? Then you don't have to pay the levy, and you give the local workers higher salaries, and you also reduce your dependence on foreign workers.
It's an interesting proposition, but like every other developing nation, they will come to a point where locals will not be interested in taking these jobs.
What do you think is that trigger point of salaries that would attract them to come in to work for you? I mean, what are you paying your foreign workers right now?
Foreign workers' minimum salary at the moment is 900 ringgit Malaysia.
Okay, so if you add the 2,500 ringgit levy, and say if you pay a local worker 3,500 ringgit a month, would that bring in more locals to work for you?
Not necessarily so, because the threshold for local workers has also increased over the years, and it has got a lot to do with the preference for the type of jobs they like to do, and also probably a balance between the local workers on work and life. Unlike foreign workers, whereby they are coming in with the sole objective of earning as much as they could, and basically feeding their families at home.
You earlier on demanded for some kind of incentive from the government. Don't you think that this is part of the competitive process, where you got to buy your own machines and you got to inject innovation into your business? And you have earlier mentioned that you have injected all this innovation. So isn't asking for an incentive for the government to further your profits and your own business, isn't that privatizing all the profits for you but socializing the cost?
In a lot of countries, it's quite normal for governments to come in to give a gentle push or gentle facilitation for companies to go into this area, because for some industry, for instance, foreign workers is a necessity because you look at the sheer numbers, and perhaps even the local population, we will not be able to find that many people who are willing to undertake those kind of jobs.
Is it viable to set up overseas, like say in centers like Vietnam, which is really up and coming, or in Indonesia or something, where that is the source of those workers?
It's possible, because over time, a lot of these countries are also competing for investments. So come a certain point in time, you might tip the balance to enable some of these companies to move elsewhere where labor is plentiful, where the incentives are more, to reward the entrepreneurs who wish to invest more in their business.
Now, there is a very interesting question here, and it's related to our discussion on government influence, right? Government policy and so on. And the question is, any indication of the government buying into cash-rich glove companies like what they have done with the sugar companies?
I believe the government, it's a very interesting question. I believe the government has its own objectives in looking at the type of companies they wish to be involved in. Currently, we do not foresee this happening because this is an industry that's been around for a long time. Maybe not as strategic as far as local interests are concerned. If you compare with the sugar companies, they involve basically a lot of local consumption.
But certainly there is the strategic angle there, because Malaysian gloves are very dominant in the world.
Yes, but probably they are much more interesting business that the government has in mind. But if the government has this intention, I believe that probably must have been considered from a very close angle, and probably for other reasons.
How much shares do you own, and would you sell if the price is right?
Our chairman, Tan Sri Lim, has always mentioned that he loves the business so much that the business is not for sale. So regardless of the price, I believe that we will still be in this business. And it's an interesting business, lots of potential and plenty of opportunities to expand and broaden the business.
KM Lee, MD of Top Glove, is on the Breakfast Grill today. Now, KM, your industry association, MAGMA, thinks that sustainable growth for rubber gloves is in the region of 6 to 8% a year. Give us an idea of how realistic this is, because is it too high because the world already has a whole lot of gloves, or is it still quite low because of diseases, like Zika, what we are experiencing right now?
Yeah, I think 6 to 8% is looking at a broader base from the world demand of it, whereby you talk about, as far as gloves are concerned, we talk about roughly about 180 billion gloves production and consumption per year. So interesting part about gloves is that every time when there is a health concern, for instance, Zika coming into the picture, you basically thrust gloves into the forefront to basically remind all of us that gloves are really essential items that you have to really consider when it comes to protecting ourselves against transmission of diseases and preventing ourselves from harm's way. So in a way, we are also concerned about Zika, has been monitoring the situation, and we felt that if there's anything that the industry could do, would basically be a protective item for healthcare workers, for anyone that might come into contact with this particular virus.
Your volume growth projection is around 10 to 15% per annum, whereas the industry projections are 6 to 8% per annum. So yes. What makes you able to grow faster than industry? For
2016, we have set KPIs whereby we wanted to expand through organic and inorganic manners. Organic will be, we'll continue to build our factories, 1 to 2 factories. Nowadays, more likely 2 factories than 1. And on the other side, mergers and acquisitions as well, moving into related business particularly. And we are also looking at setting up factories to produce items that are of interest to us. For instance, in former manufacturing factories, and other areas where we pay a lot for it, whereby we feel that if we come into that kind of business, we could continue to reap economies of scale from it.
Now, I just want to take a closer look at your capacities and compare that with your competitors. Your machine's ability to churn out about 45 billion gloves a year is way ahead of your nearest competitors like Kosan, who produces half of your output. What has enabled Top Glove to grow so much faster than your competitors?
I think some of the factors that come into play would basically be a very aggressive stance in expanding our business, and basically very strong marketing force, and as well as having a very big pool of customers, whereby we continue to grow our business together. Mm-hmm. And the other factors, like for instance, we continue to emphasize a lot on talent recruitment and talent retention. This has enabled us to continue to grow in this area, because as you grow bigger and bigger, I think it's important to maintain a very good foundation. In this regard, we have developed a very successful culture of being honest and being transparent and being able to focus on objectives that matter to us a lot.
But you make a lot more latex gloves than nitrile, which is a kind of synthetic glove that is supposedly superior to latex. I mean, other players like Hartalega and Kosan have a very strong nitrile focus, whereas you have a very strong latex focus. Is that a disadvantage for you?
Not really. Anything that is good can always come back into fashion again. As you can see, latex has predominantly been a very traditional item that has served the industry well. And up to today, there are some markets like Brazil, India, and even China, and certain parts of Middle East, Latin America. Latex is still the preferred glove of usage.
What is the advantage of latex over nitrile? Because nitrile, I read, the advantages are something like allergy-free, strong barrier resistance, more puncture resistance, and you can also reuse them. But what are the advantages of latex?
Latex, for the most important part, is biodegradable. It's a sustainable form of industry, whereby the gloves come from rubber trees, and they could be planted and replanted. And the other thing is that the gloves are much more comfortable to wear, and it fits the fingers tighter. And over time, you have less hand fatigue because of longer usage of gloves. That's why in applications like surgical gloves, in surgical rooms, operating theaters, you find that a lot of the surgeons still like to use latex gloves because it's very comfortable and flexible, and it reduces the tiredness of the hands when you use it for a long time. And you look at it in terms of barrier integrity, latex gloves is still very good as compared to the other forms of synthetic gloves. I read in a research by Malaysian Rubber Board that if there's a minor pinhole in a latex glove, by the stretching of the gloves, it has the ability to self-seal that particular small hole, which is not possible in other materials.
Interesting. And also over the years, the latex raw material price has fallen a lot more than nitrile, actually, perhaps driven by the crashes in the commodity world. And I just want to ask whether there'll be some competitive refocus to produce more latex, and will that provide more competition to you, because the margins from here would be much higher, right? And will competitors move into latex?
Possible. As I mentioned, that a lot of these glove companies have the flexibility to move from nitrile to latex and vice versa. And so for Top Glove's case, we have about 60% latex glove production and slightly more than 30% nitrile glove production. So this is where we have the ability to attend to the customer's requirements. If they wish to have more nitrile, in fact, all our new factories are moving into the nitrile lines. We could attend to their requirements. And if they wish to fall back to latex, for instance, for the fact that it's much more affordable now, we could also attend to their requirements.
Now, I just want to focus on infectious disease as the last question. What, in your conversations with your expert healthcare customers, are these infectious diseases here to stay? Should we get used to it, and should we worry about this kind of situation?
Yes, I should say that over time, because of the proximity of people coming together and more contact between human beings in various kind of working situations and traveling, more mobility, etc., we're going to see a lot more of these concerns coming in. And this is where I believe that it will also help to spur the awareness for better hygiene, awareness for better protection, and the fact that medical experts should also look into how to prevent them from happening.
Thank you so much for your time. That was KM Lee, Managing Director of Top Glove Corporation Berhad, on this morning's Breakfast Grill. I'm Julian Ng, BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.